There once lived a man, a reviewer of sorts. Books were his passion, his library was court. Adaptations were his job, and his words were quite vogue. He had a sardonic wit, and his name was Crimson Rogue. Though Christmas did pass, and December did go, he found himself asking,
"Where the fuck is the snow?"
Though there's cold air outside and warm blankets in bed, he still had to say,
"God damn it, I wanted to build a snowman."
That last one didn't rhyme, but he didn't care, for it was still the season to love and to share.
Fuck this, I'm gonna go play Borderlands.
Mayhaps a good book could help calm him down, or he could watch that movie that he picked up in town. He had a new movie about the South Pole. Perhaps that could help him rekindle his soul. His channel was not a Let's Play, oh no, he would give to his fans and should just start the show. That new movie had been an interesting pick. He could start it right now and stop being
NPC! If you want to keep living here, you're gonna have to knock it off with the poetry. Sorry.
Hey, how was the poem?
It was alright. Welcome to 2015, guys. It's January, and there's barely any goddamn snow to speak of. So I thought I'd watch a movie that took place in Antarctica, full of plenty of snow, action, and a ton of thrills. And once I was done watching John Carpenter's The Thing, I watched this piece of crap.
Though it was hardly the worst movie I've seen, there was something remarkably disappointing about Whiteout.
A story about the first murder in Antarctica? Arguably the most inhospitable place on the planet? That sounds incredible!
But when you get right down to it, the movie is just as barren as the icy continent itself. They take what could have been an interesting concept and dumb it down so that it barely utilizes Antarctica's harsh climate and, in fact, makes a few basic errors that the book didn't. The movie came out in 2009 and stars Kate Beckinsale and was directed by Dominic Sena, whose other directing accomplishments include Gone in 60 Seconds, Swordfish, and Season of the Witch.
Basically, the guy's name doesn't carry a lot of weight.
Whiteout the book, however, is a graphic novel written by Greg Rucka and illustrated by Steve Lieber. It's about an isolated U.S. Marshal named Carrie Stetko investigating a murder alongside British agent Lily Sharp. Both women are strong characters with commanding personalities and incredible determination. The sort of characters that I'm sure Joss Whedon could get behind. It was published in 1999 by Oni Press and was nominated for several Eisner Awards, including Best Writer, Best Penciler and Inker Team, and Best Limited Series. The main character, Carrie Stetko, even ranked 44th in the Comic Buyer's Guide's 100 Sexiest Women in Comics. The comic did so well that a sequel came out in 2000 called Whiteout Melt, with a third book, Whiteout Thaw, rumored to be in the works.
So how bad can the adaptation be? Well, put on your parka and let's find out in Whiteout.
So we open to a Russian plane in 1957, several decades before the rest of the story takes place. Yeah, I have no idea where exactly this plane came from, where they're going, or why the hell they're flying over the Antarctic. I guess they're escaping Soviet Russia and defecting somewhere else, but that's purely a guess. They could still be on official business. None of this was in the book, and I'll go into more detail about the plane later. For now, all you have to know is that the plane is being used as a shortcut in place of another, easier-to-understand plot device later on.
Here's a note for the writers out there. If you're using a shortcut like this that raises more questions than answers, then don't use the shortcut!
Cut to 50 years later, and we see Marshal Carrie Stetko, played by Kate Beckinsale, making the rounds at the Edmondson Scott Base, a research facility located at the South Pole.
A merry place full of ice, science, and streakers. It's negative 70 degrees Fahrenheit before wind chill. They'll be dead in minutes.
Contrast that with a scene 5 minutes later that shows several newcomers freezing to death even with several layers of clothes on.
Thinking is impaired. Motor skills failing. You are, in short, gentlemen, well on your way to dying, and it's only been 3 minutes.
Stetko is set to leave the base in only a few days, taking the last plane out before the winter months hit. Once winter arrives, it'll cover the base in darkness for several months.
And winter is coming.
With only 2 days left to go, Stetko had hoped to spend her time relaxing and enjoying the party that the base staff is throwing, but a pilot apparently spotted a body out on the ice, so she has to investigate.
Let's see who he is. Weiss.
Weiss. Yeah, I knew him.
Yeah, we wintered with him last year. Played cards a couple times.
He's the one that cheated.
So we got taken out Old West style?
So Stetko and Dr. Fury take their victim back to base for an autopsy.
Rough edges around the wound. Ice axe, something like that.
Doc, this wasn't an accident.
And if that weren't bad enough, Stetko planned to retire as soon as she left the base.
This means a federal investigation. We're witnesses. Now, I know you want to get out of here, Carrie. The last plane leaves in 2 days. Say the word, I'll bag the body, put it on the plane from McMurdo. I'll let them sort it out. No big deal.
Actually, that's a great idea.
If she's quitting, then there's no reason she should be forced to stay in the most inhospitable place on the planet. And I'm sure they have contingencies for this. And McMurdo is a resupply depot right along the coast, so I'm sure they have an easier time. No, of course not. She chooses to risk spending 6 months in this frigid wasteland rather than go home.
Admirable, but stupid. And this is one of 2 reasons why using the impending winter was a bad idea for the filmmakers.
The threat of an impenetrable winter wasn't in the book, and it's obvious why. I'll get to the second reason at the end of the review, but the first is that it's an arbitrary attempt at tension that never really sinks in. It's forced, and there's no explanation given why planes wouldn't be able to fly to the base in winter. Last I checked, pilots could still fly in the dark. Hell, the movie started with one!
I mean, hell, if we're just lobbing plot points at the script, why not go all the way? Alright, Beckinsale, so your character has to solve a murder in 2 days' time before being left behind in the Antarctic, help a struggling kids' sports team win the championship next week, and save the orphans from a burning nuclear power plant that's about to blow. Also, your water just broke.
So Stetko discovers that her murder victim was part of a team searching for meteorites when she gets a call from one of Weiss's teammates.
No, I can't come in. You have to come to Vostok. Only you.
Why would I want to go to Vostok?
Just come to Vostok, please.
Look, I got a better idea. I'll send a plane. You come here.
Just come to Vostok and you'll understand everything.
She's on the phone with you right now. Why can't you reveal what happened? 'Cause I've seen the ending. It's really not that complicated.
So she makes her way to Vostok Station, which has been abandoned for the winter.
Because if there's one thing the Russians can't stand, it's cold, snowy weather.
So Stetko explores the empty base and finally finds the missing scientist. But oh no! His throat's been cut!
Wow! It's almost like not detailing his news over the phone was a bad idea!
So the killer tries to take Stetko out as well and forces her out into the cold without her gloves on. And actually this might be a point for the movie. You see, in the book, her gloves kind of fell off on their own during the chase, but here, we see an established reason why she took them off, which makes sense. It's small, but it makes a difference.
This accomplishment would have been much more impressive without the mountain of other problems going on.
And with her glove missing, Stetko's hand literally freezes to the door, which gives her severe frostbite.
How's your chin?
It's better than your hand.
How bad?
Bad enough you don't want to see.
Stetko and her pilot Delphi finish exploring the base and come across a man named Robert Price, a UN inspector who is just a shoot-in replacement for Stetko's real partner, British agent Lily Sharp. Price has little to offer and doesn't really stand out in any way. And this annoys me.
Changing several plot points I can understand, but why change a character and her gender?
The studio claimed they weren't sure how well a movie starring 2 women would go over, so they gave up and just gave the part to a man.
But with the script the way it is, I have no idea why.
The writing in the movie is so gender neutral that anyone can be gender swapped and it'll have no impact on the story. Stetko and Sharp's characters from the book weren't fun because they were women, they were fun because they were no-nonsense, tough-as-nails, take-no-shit from anyone women. The book pointed out that women in the South Pole were outnumbered about 200 to 1, so for Stetko to survive a frigid guys club, she had to be a badass.
Not understanding that was perhaps the movie's biggest failing, and it's another reason why I can't take this guy seriously.
So Price leads Stetko and Delphi out to the remote base where Weiss and his team worked. After discovering where the scientists were digging, Stetko and company head out to the ice to investigate.
found what they were looking for.
After breaking into the plane, Weiss and his team took something from it, but Weiss was injured, as indicated by all the blood found at the scene. So when Stetko returns to the research base, she gets her hand checked out, but is given bad news.
You feel that?
No.
No?
2 of Stetko's fingers have died, and if she doesn't get them amputated, infection will set in and she might lose her whole hand.
And how does she take it?
I'm gonna have to amputate these fingers.
No
They're
way.
dead, Carrie.
There are 2 distinct differences to note here. The first is Stetko's reaction.
Here she's bland and barely registers the loss of her fingers, freaking out once when she has trouble buttoning a shirt. In the book, she was in shock until after the surgery, and then she drowned her sorrows in alcohol and cried herself to sleep into a pillow. Both scenes reflect each other somewhat, but the scene in the movie is over after a few seconds and we don't see Beckinsale acting, only reacting.
The second difference is the fingers she lost.
In the movie, she lost her ring and pinky on her left hand. In the book, she lost her right and middle fingers on her right hand. Her dominant hand. Not only did she lose her fingers, she gained a humongous detriment. She couldn't even properly dress herself in one scene and Sharp had to help her.
If you don't think that's a big deal, try taping your index and middle finger into your palm and then go about your day and see what difference it makes. Alright, let's see how hard that is. Screw this, I'm just gonna wear sandals. Damn it! Oh, come on, who even puts Q-tips in a mason jar? Hey, what the hell was that? Nothing!
And of course the movie did this because it was easier to film, but I prefer to think of it as the director being lazy and uncreative. And it's not a hard problem to solve. Have her wear gloves, use a prosthetic hand sticking out of a long sleeve. Simply don't film her hand at all.
There are a lot of ways around this if you just put 2 seconds of thought into it.
But because the encroaching winter wasn't enough tension, we get an oncoming storm that forces a complete evacuation of the base.
You're pulling everybody off the ice?
I can't take the chance of having my people stranded down here for 6 months with this guy running around.
Because you don't think I can do my job?
And like so many other points, this wasn't in the book.
The movie feels they need to heighten the drama so much that it actually creates its own problems, but that doesn't do anything if we don't care about the characters.
So far, we have a massively subdued Stetko, a one-note partner in Price, and although Delphi wasn't that prominent in the book either, he spends almost no time on screen. Really, the only person we might have a reason to care for is Dr. Fury.
I thought you were wintering over again.
I got a card from my granddaughter inviting me to her 5th birthday party.
You have a granddaughter?
I have a granddaughter, Carrie, and I've never met her.
He's so far been pretty disconnected from the murder investigation, only being there to comfort Stetko and perform the autopsy, but he's charismatic and makes every scene he's in just a little bit better.
Shrimp? You've been holding out on me, woman.
But the movie tries to make up for that by giving us Stetko's backstory. Throughout the movie, we've been getting flashbacks to her previous assignment, catching a drug trafficker with her partner Jack when she was attacked.
She's calling him with all the excitement of someone who just found a cute cat video, not someone fighting for her life.
It turned out that Jack sold her out, and she in turn killed him.
Carrie.
I would argue this was worse because it portrays her more as a victim, when in the book, the trafficker got loose on his own, attacked the marshals, then Stetko killed him in anger. Though one could argue it was self-defense as well. It showed just what her breaking point was after dealing with this guy's sexual harassment for what could have been hours. And again, shows that this role could only be properly portrayed by a woman. Again, Stetko in the movie was written really gender neutral and could be played by a man just as easily as a woman. But whatever. After losing another witness to the killer, Stetko and Price finally have their man. And he's the Australian bloke who streaked in the snow earlier.
You're the second guy out the door, right?
Yeah.
But the killer, named Russell Hayden, gets loose and tries to kill both Stetko and Price during the movie's namesake, a whiteout. It's a storm so dense with snow that you can't see more than a few inches in front of you, even though we can clearly see everything around for several meters. But things don't work out so well for Hayden. However, the case isn't solved yet. Stetko still needs to discover what was stolen from the Russian plane to know what this entire murder spree was about. While Stetko and Price were chasing Hayden around, the rest of the base was evacuated and escaped the storm by plane. So, Stetko has the base commander fax a complete manifest of the supplies that made it onto the plane. And while she's looking, she discovers that the manifest is missing 3 canisters of science! This revelation, and the fact that Hayden was tricked into smuggling jelly beans out during his escape,
Sour apple.
means there's at least one other person involved in the heist. Only 4 people are left in the base. Stetko, who we know is innocent, Delphi, who was stabbed in an earlier scene, Price, who hasn't done one thing to advance the plot yet, and Dr. Fury.
Guess who it is?
They're diamonds. Purest, the most valuable.
So in a scene that pads the movie for almost 6 minutes, Stetko stumbles around in the dark, discovers that the canisters from the Russian plane were actually full of diamonds, and that Dr. Fury was planning on smuggling them out and the murder victims.
You know, while I did like the Doctor in the movie, this is a lot more convoluted than it had to be.
In the book, the diamonds were replaced by chunks of gold, more than $150,000 worth. The reason that led to suspicion and murder was because of the 1991 Protocol on Environmental Protection to the Antarctic Treaty, which barred any country from taking raw material goods from Antarctica. That plot point was based on real international law and made sense without having to throw in an unnecessary Russian plane crash. Just think of the time, money, and confusion they could have saved if they never included the plane in the first place.
Do you see what I mean when I say shortcuts should actually be shortcuts?
So the movie ends with the Doctor walking into a snowstorm one last time, and Stetko, Price, and Delphi surviving the winter months together, with Stetko withdrawing her resignation from the US Marshals.
This movie. Ugh. Grab a warm drink because this movie leaves you out in the cold.
The book was enjoyable with a good plot, great characters, and fantastic illustrations. Writer Greg Rucka and artist Steve Lieber really knew what they were doing, and I'm looking forward to checking out the sequel. These guys make a great team, and I recommend this book to anyone who likes great character-driven stories. The plot is far more coherent than it was in the movie, and you really have to pay attention to the illustrations if you want to pick up the clues yourself. The book gets a 4 out of 5. The movie, however, was a boring disappointment. Several scenes had me nodding off, and the padding was just awful. The acting was okay, though as I've complained several times already, the Stetko of the movie was bland and was written so poorly that she could have been played by a man and you would have gotten the exact same story out of it. In fact, Greg Rucka said that the Stetko of the book could have taken the Stetko of the movie behind the bleachers at school, kicked the crap out of her, then sent movie Stetko muling home to mother. And he's right. Beckinsale didn't do a bad job playing the part she was given. The problem was that the writers and director had no idea who Carrie Stetko was supposed to be. Combine that with some dull special effects, and you have a disappointing movie. One that barely earned back half its production value. The movie earns a 2 out of 5. While the movie was bad as a movie, it was even worse as an adaptation. I've already mentioned Stetko's character change and Sharp's gender change, and idiotically including a Russian plane as a plot point, so I'll just bring up something that the illustrator said. In most murder mysteries, the setting depends on darkness, creating an eerie location or cutting off the character's sense of hope. In the summer months of Antarctica, which is when the book is set, that isn't a problem since you have sunlight for months at a time. Whiteout succeeds at that because you have a thrilling murder mystery that doesn't depend on jump scares or blinding darkness to be creepy. Now look at all the darkness in the movie. It doesn't even try to capture the atmosphere of the book, not even slightly. It was bad watching this the first time, but when I saw this again after reading the book, I was downright offended. If the director read the book, it doesn't show. As an adaptation, Whiteout gets a 2 out of 5.
Well, that sucked. But not everything is bad in the world. I mean, hey, at least we got some snow. So forget this garbage and just have fun in the new year. I'm Crimson Rogue, and if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go build that snowman.
Just come to Vostok and you'll understand everything.
I'm involved in a diamond heist, and a man named Russell Hayden killed Weiss and wants to kill me too so he can take the loot for himself. There! That wasn't too hard!